they, if somebody in their complex has been arrested for prostitution, or if they've actually committed a sexual, assault on someone, those are things that currently we do not share. So that would be something new to that. I don't know if there's anything else that comes up for you.
Yeah, I wanted to add it because it sounded like your question was, and by the way, my name is James Stajian with the Housing Department of the City of San Jose. Currently, we don't have an ordinance that is a non-cause or no-cause eviction. So you're right, landlords do have the ability to evict for any number of reasons as long as they go through the standard process. So that's in place already. Now, to get to your point, what does this do? Is that this generally can expedite that process, and it also points out very specific reasons why the tenant can be evicted.
All right, so I wanted to ask, who determines what type of crime the landlords will be able to utilize against a tenant?
It will actually, those crimes that were listed up there, that would actually be provided from the police department to the property owner and or manager. So it'd be the police department that would be giving that information to them.
So it can be a minor crime, and the landlord can make that decision based on his own judgment, his or her own judgment.
Well, what I'm hearing from other cities, what they're doing is that, again, like I mentioned, they're providing those, I don't know if you can bring it up, but again, it's the prostitution, right? It's the sexual assault, or just regular assaults, and it can also be drugs, those that we listed. And again, on that addendum, on the crime-free addendum, though, it does say there is a component on there that does say in any illegal activity too, right? So again, these are something that other cities are doing. They are the ones that are taking the lead, providing that information.
Who is going to monitor the program? How is the program going to be monitored?
It would actually be led by, well, in other cities, because again, we have not made any decision to implement it here in San Jose, but in other cities, it's the police department that takes the lead.
You said that you've been researching other cities that have sort of crime-free ordinances like this. Has there been any litigation brought against these municipalities because of these laws?
That I do not know, but the only thing that I do know is that the crime-free lease addendum actually has made its way all the way up to the Supreme Court, and it was something that the Oakland Housing Authority versus another entity. But yes, it has gone all the way up to the Supreme Court. That's the only one that I know as far as going.
Just to follow up to that, isn't housing authority, because it's under FHA, a different set of rules? So would that not apply to some kind of crime-free program?
I would think that they would have, I'm sure that they would have.
I can answer that,
separate
yeah.
guidelines.
They do have separate guidelines, and they do have similar addendums. However, they have a whole different set of standards that they abide by.
So this reference about the Oakland Housing Authority taking their case to the Supreme Court doesn't matter in this particular instance, because that data goes along with different set of guidelines, wouldn't it?
Well, it's separate guidelines, but my point that I guess I'm trying to make is that they actually were able to utilize this addendum, the crime-free lease addendum, that because of that tenant actually being able to sign it, that they were able to take it up to the Supreme Court, and it was with.
My other follow-up question is, we have a marriage gang prevention task force here in our city. Are we stipulating that task force isn't doing its job and we need some type of alternative to help it along? Or why can't this be some of those items that are being brought up be handled that way instead of through some new set of ordinances?
I think when this program was looked at, it was about how kind of take a look at developing that relationship with the property owners, you know, and being able to work with them. You are right, there is a gang task force that is here in San Jose, and they provide, you know, services to youth and families. I think the difference really with this program is they really, what I've seen is what they are doing is establishing relationships with the property owner. That's really what it is, not only with the property owners, but also with the tenants that live there. Question?
Yeah, I was wondering if there would be an incorporation about the homeless. I don't have just issues with the tenant that you're presenting in your program, which I actually like, but it's the homeless. There's an alley behind our property, and every day I see the homeless. And when I talk to them and I ask them to move their cars, move their bodies, it's confrontational. And I don't like the idea that I can be intimidated by people that have nothing to do with my property. Yet they urinate, they eat food, they're sleeping, and I've had complaints from my tenants who are in fear. They don't want to say anything, and they come in and they use the water. My normal water bill is $350 every 2 months. Last month, it's $850. And that's because homeless were coming in, turning on the water and washing themselves. I live across the street from a school, and last year, and I'll make this short, I saw some kids in the back, and I noticed a kid wearing a long overcoat. I saw the overcoat swing open, he had a machine gun, and we're right across from Lowell Elementary School. I went over, I talked to the kid, and I told him, and I was probably pretty stupid, but I told him, I said, we're across the street from a school, and there can't be any weapons in our neighborhood, in the alley. And he told me he was concerned because other gang members might intimidate him or whatever. He's never come back, but that tells you the type of crowd that this alley brings behind. And these are homeless people. I took pictures. I actually went to the San Jose PD and I talked to them. They said I need to talk to the officers that patrol the area. And I think this will work. I actually like this program, the way you presented it. But I think you have to incorporate more than just the tenants as being issues. I think that the homeless, the people that are camping on underpasses by the rivers and along the vacant properties and such are actually also part of this issue.
So I'll try to, I think there was a question in there, and I'll try to answer it. First of all, homelessness is a huge issue here in San Jose, the chronically homeless, and we have a lot of different programs that we're working on right now to try to address that and address those specific concerns. So after the meeting, if you want, I'll give you my card and I'll give you some resources that you can contact to address those specific issues. As far as this program, it's really focused on multifamily buildings, the tenants and their owners. So it doesn't expand beyond that. We do other things for homelessness, and like I said, we can talk about those specifics afterwards. But this program is a little bit different than that.
One back here.
Right here. So does this program mean that people that are getting out on parole will not be able to live in these areas where this program is being applied to?
They would still be able to live in this neighborhood, except the only thing is that what they would not want to do is commit, illegal activity again, right? Because then for sure they would definitely be evicted. And not only them, but it would be whoever else they're living with, the entire, whoever they, say they come back and again, they get caught up and they do something, that whole family is evicted, would be evicted.
So it's for new crimes that are committed, not like, so do they check the record before they have to move in there and then whatever?
And again, the way that the program is working in other cities cities, I do know that some of them are active in the sense of, well, they do encourage the property owners, right, to teach them actually how to do criminal, the background checks, right? So again, it's going to be depending on the property owner if they do that. I hope that answers your question.
So the property owner could choose to rent to that individual even if they have a record. It's up to the owner.
It's up to the owner.
I would like to know if this program would be tight enough because, for example, in the case the person living under parole, it's a very delicate fine line that it can be used even as retaliatory using the program. So I would like to know if the program is going to be that tight as you promised, because so far it seems so broad.
Yeah, I mean, the only, again, with what it states on the lease addendum, if an individual was to commit a crime, right, a criminal activity, they would be evicted. I mean, that's the only thing, that's the only thing that comes up to answer your question, right? Again, if a resident is living there and they don't commit any type of criminal activity, they should have nothing to worry about.
Just to add to that, and then I had a question. If you're a licensed real estate agent and you do property management, you know a lot about the laws. I know for me, I have an online service I use for both criminal and credit checks. But I cannot discriminate against someone in Megan's database, a sexual offender. So it's kind of awkward because you know about it, but you can't discriminate against. I don't know where there's going to be similar lines. And to his point, you know, someone's on parole, and I would think that's a discriminatory act if you aren't allowed to rent to them, or you choose not to rent to them, just like if someone has done a sexual act. So those are questions, I think, as feedback that need to be addressed. And then to the point of the homeless, in my case, there's a carport that's down below the apartment building, and it's off of Newhall near the Alameda. And same thing, we have either homeless that use the water spigot that you can use to wash your car and things to take a bath, so sometimes they're actually naked doing it, and so that's very odd for the tenants to see. But then we have a lot of cars broken into down there. Nobody's been hurt, but there has been a lot of vandalism, and I'd be curious to understand from a police perspective. I don't believe property managers are responsible for damage to somebody's cars and all, but we are responsible from an insurance perspective if someone's injured and we didn't do the best thing we could to cause that not to happen. And so there's a lot of questions I have around if we were to do an assessment. How much are you really required to do as an owner or a manager, because you can't prevent everything, where they could in fact sue you. So I kind of have some of those kind of questions, but.
I mean, I think that, I'm hearing like some of the insurance question, but I would think like anything, it's about due diligence. What have you tried to do to improve, whether if it's lighting, or, I think it's all about due diligence if somebody was to take your report. That would be my thing, I guess.
Let me have one question here, and then we're going to regroup and break into groups.
Hi, Nadia with the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley. There's been a lot of opposition and concerns raised about the crime-free program from our organization, groups like Sacred Heart PAC, even the district attorney and public defenders have spoken out about concerns they have with this program. Would you mind sharing some of the concerns and opposition to this program?
Yeah, I can do that. So there is a stakeholder group that was formed around this program, and that group met in early December, and We presented the program to them, and there were, as Nadia said, there were quite a few serious questions and concerns expressed. Let me summarize a couple of those. One of those is that in the lease addendum, and a lot of the concern was focused around the lease addendum. In the lease addendum, if I have friends over, people over to my apartment and they commit a crime, now I'm subject to be evicted. So that's a concern. Domestic abuse. If I'm a victim of domestic abuse, and this is by my partner who I live with, and I report that person, I might get evicted. So I'm in that sense, a double victim that way. There's also a sense that underneath the lease addendum, it targets people of lower socioeconomic class and people of color. So issues about racial bias came out as well. Nadia, am I missing anything? And that through the eviction process, more people will lose their housing and become homeless. So that's a sort of a synopsis of the concerns that we've heard. Now, as we move forward here, we're anxious to hear and curious to hear your concerns, and we've heard some of those around homeless, around in the alleyway there, and this woman as well. We're anxious to hear your concerns around safety in your housing unit, apartment unit. And we want to hear your suggestions for how to enhance safety. And some of those suggestions can come from the crime-free program, but in no way are we restricted to that, because at this point in the exploratory mode, we want to hear all the ideas for enhancing safety. Some of those might dovetail with what you heard, and if you don't, and if you think that some of these ideas don't work, we want to hear that as well. And we also want to hear your suggestions for ideas that do work. Because at this point, staff's collecting lots of information. You've heard Esther reference other cities doing best practices, what are other cities doing, but at the same time not wanting to just mimic other cities. What will work for San Jose? What would be a unique approach for San Jose that targets the needs, the values, the culture in San Jose? So that's where your suggestion is going to be very helpful to hear those. So we have a group up there for people who want to participate in Spanish up there. We have staff will be facilitating and recording these conversations. We're recording everything. Linda Blong, my colleague, is recording all these comments right here, and I'll tell you where you can find these notes at the end of the meeting. There's a website, and then we'll be recording, obviously, the discussion here as well. So there's, if you want Spanish speaking, please go up there. And English speaking is down here, and Vietnamese is here. Let me ask, does anybody need Vietnamese translation? Does anybody? Don't be shy, raise your hand. Excuse me? Let me. Thank you.
Ở đây có ai cần thông dịch viên tiếng Việt không? No.
So we can have a group here, English, group here, and a group here, Spanish. Just get up and move around. Come on, let's move around. Oh, yes. And I also want to say that if you don't feel comfortable expressing your views, please provide your views on the comment cards, and we have these available to you, and we will record these as well. So, please come on down here.
Huh?
And,
I'm sorry, I missed your
and then let's
It's crazy though because of one person.
Okay, good here. Okay. Okay. Conversation that I overheard, and I know you did up there, so let's just get some headlines and highlights so each group can hear what the other ones talked about. Jose, how did the conversation go up there? Give us some key points.
And basically, just for brevity, I'll go through the suggestions that were made. Some of the problems that they talked about was residents allowing homeless to stay. So these are not tenants under lease. These are people that are actually invited to stay with them, and they happen to be homeless individuals. They also said another problem are owners want to make their own rules. They talked about the homeless are very aggressive, There's been mailbox theft, so people have broken into the mailboxes. There's been homeless encampments, there's been car thefts, and the landlords take advantage of renters and rent is high. And that was as far as problems. Now as far as suggestions, they said we need a community center. They suggested the city property that's owned there at Gallup and Mesa. They talked about rent control as a suggestion, just cause eviction, more police patrol, help for the homeless, wants more police, hopefully 500 police officers. Low turnout is a problem. In other words, 450 flyers were sent out to the Hoffman Viamonte neighborhood, and we probably ended up with 30 people from the neighborhood. And that was pretty much it as far as on our end.
For our side, let's see, car break-ins, some of the highlights, having communications between all the landlords, because sometimes some of the landlords or property owners are not on the same page as the ones that are working together with their tenants. So having that safety in the common areas as well, and then homeless, another was brought up as well. How can property owners bridge the gap of other property owners? I mentioned that. And other problems, concerns, graffiti, gang, drug, and then the fear, the culture of the fear of the tenants in reporting crime to the police, as well as reporting it to the managers because of the fear of retaliation. And let's see, illegal dumping. What is PD, Police Department, currently doing to build relationship with tenants? Tenants don't believe police will do anything, so they give up and they don't call, and it just allows the crime activity to continue. And some of the solutions that were brought up, training classes for owners and managers, which that is available, as well as through the California Bureau of Real Estate. And then someone else mentioned that through Tri-County, the city actually pays for that for the managers, as well as just the managers and property owners. However, it's not a mandatory thing for them to do, a class for them to take. Also, this one was brought up as well. Foot patrol, seeing more presence, which a few months ago, it was officers were on foot patrol in the area, and they did see a decrease in crime in the area. Also, relationship between owners and tenants and police, if it could be a positive relationship between all three. And also, police notify owners when problems occur, because what some of the property managers mentioned, their tenants are not informing them if police activity occurred on their property. So if there's any way where managers or owners can get that information. Any other highlights? Oh, this one's important. Strong management presence, which is very valuable to have in order for the tenants to realize, okay, well, the managers is here to help. If we need help, if we have problems, we know we can go to the manager as well. Or if we're doing something we're not supposed to, the manager is going to be here to observe that as well.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to start wrapping up the meeting here, and I think before we do that, we had just great facilitation here in this group and that group up there, so let's give a round of applause to our facilitators. Just a really nice job. And to you all for sharing your experiences and your concerns, as well as the suggestions, and just a really rich collection of really great suggestions here. And these will all be factored in as we put the notes together and a report from all the community meetings. I do want to draw your attention, I mentioned the comment card earlier. If you have any additional questions or comments you want to share, we're open to hearing those, but you can write those down as well. And then also on this comment card, there's a website address that's going to have all the documents for this crime-free program project, and that includes the notes from this evening's meeting as well as the stakeholder meeting that we had in December and the upcoming meetings as well. So that's a great place to go to stay on top of what's happening here. Hopefully you signed up, you have the sign-up sheet, and you're on the email list. In terms of next steps, this is the first community meeting, and as you know from the flyer, there are 3 more community meetings this month. So there's another one tomorrow evening. Tell your friends and neighbors at Blanca Alvarado Middle School. That's tomorrow. Next week on the 14th at Emmanuel Lutheran Church on Moore Park, and then the last one is the 19th of January at the McKinley Community Center. There will also be 2 stakeholder meetings later in January as well, January 21st and 28th, and there'll also be to the Housing and Community Development Commission, also be engaging them at their February meeting as well. Once all this input is collected, we will summarize, thematize that, and then staff's going to develop some recommendations, and then that's ultimately what will go to the Rules Committee, Council Rules Committee, and ultimately to City Council at some point. I know the question came up earlier what the timeline is on that, and it's probably going to be a matter of months, certainly a matter of months before that happens. It's not going to happen quickly. So, are there any other questions or comments, concerns before we break here? Council member.
Yeah, how many people actually live in this neighborhood? I know you do. Any other people? 2, 3, 3. I know I had my whole staff out knocking on doors. I just want to make sure, first of all, that you did get a door knock and at least something on your doors. You got the flyers, okay. I don't know how to better reach out to all of you. We've actually tried to have, in our neighborhood, we've actually held community meetings where only 3 or 4 people show up several times. And we've also had, we put together a landlord participation coalition so that we can educate our landlords on what to do around here. But I want to know how to better reach out to this community, and I don't know what will work. Obviously you're here. What could work better? Is this a bad time of the day? I just want to hear from the tenants really quick. What are your thoughts on how to better reach out to all of you?
I just really think that door-to-door was really actually fine, but I've been here for a year and a half, and I really don't see no interest in implementing because pretty much half of the people that are living here are doing illegal stuff, pretty much, and most of the people that are doing that are people that are in the housing Section 8. So those people are not going to have no interest because they're actually doing illegal stuff.
Interesting. How about any of you? Can you ask how can we better reach out to all of you? How can we get better attendance?
I'm going to translate what they were saying.
Please.
That in the community, if you're passing out backpacks and food, you'll get all kinds of people. That just with the flyers. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next time well, we actually did provide food at 2 of the meetings that we did set up. We provided food and nobody came. Anyway, thank you all for coming. And please let all your neighbors know that I want to have a dialogue with them. And I want to know, yes.
So he's saying that with all the violence in the neighborhood, that the people themselves feel kind of intimidated for them to come out and actually say something.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole purpose of this, is to address the violence. This is one idea that we came up with. Well, you know, this is something I'd like to try on a temporary basis. And there's a lot of people who are hesitating, but I'd rather err on the side of doing something than err on the side of doing nothing. And so I want to thank all of you for coming here. And did you have any further comments? Okay, thank you.
Opportunity, every day from like 10 to 4. You can come in if you have concerns. For their convenience rather than yours. You're right.
Yes. It's Blanca Alvarado Middle School in Cunningham.
But then because students establish those connections, this phone could say, hey, remember you came in today, you need to come out. And you have a good job.
Thank you for that, Jesus. And then the question was, that meeting tomorrow at Blanca Alvarado Middle School is at 7 o'clock, the same as this evening. And we'll have a similar format tomorrow as well as tonight. And for the question about being intimidated, hopefully this was a safe environment for you tonight. Hopefully you felt comfortable communicating. That's a big goal of ours, is not to make this intimidating. We want to hear your input. So thank you. Have a great evening. Yes. Oh yes. On that website, there's a survey on there, and we'd love to have you take that survey, as well as providing comments, but we'd love to have you take that survey as well. Anything else? Okay, that's it. We will conclude the meeting, and thank you very much for coming.